The Tasmanian Community Fund presents the Breaking Barriers Building Futures podcast, hosted by Mike Buckby in conversation with Jodie Saville.
Thank you very much and welcome to Jodie. I'm with Jodie Saville, and Jodie's with the Circular Head community amongst her many roles, valued roles within the Circular Head community. But we're in the beautiful town of Smithton today. But firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're sitting here today and acknowledge their elders, past, present and emerging. Jodie, welcome.
Thank you.
And tell us a little about yourself, so the roles and what you do here in Circular Head.
Well, at the moment, I work for Circular Head Council, so I'm in what we call the Connected Communities Department. I've been here for 11 years now. So I was born, grew up, lived in Circular Head or Smithton all my life. I do a number of other volunteer roles within the community, which is basically how I was brought up. My family always volunteered right from the time I was small. So it's just something, I guess, that's in my blood.
And do you think that's something that nearly all rural communities would see, and most communities in Tasmania? The volunteer effort is just phenomenal, isn't it? Sometimes it's unsung and unacknowledged, but it's a lifeblood, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember the amount of unpaid volunteer hours we have here in Tasmania, but it's huge, and especially huge in small rural communities because we don't have a lot of the services that other people have. So we have to pitch in and do it ourselves, I think.
Yeah, no, that's true. So growing up, as you said, all your life in Circular Head.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, it's the far northwest of Tasmania, the best part of Tasmania.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So reflections on building your career and growing up, how do you think you've drawn on that with your current role within council as well? And we'll talk about some of the other roles shortly that in the community you do. But do those connections within community serve you well, do you think?
100%. In the role that I'm doing now with council, we're event planning, running health and wellbeing activities, all sorts of things like that. And you just can't do it without the connections. So I think like in a small town, one of the things we love but also sometimes hate is that everyone knows everyone. And that's a fabulous thing. So you know who to call on. You've got these amazing networks. If you want to organise an event or an activity or anything like that, you've already got connections everywhere. I think they're just so important for doing the work that we do and for anything really. But as I said, sometimes that's not your favourite thing when everyone knows everyone and everything. But I think as you get older too, you probably appreciate it more.
True. Yeah. Sometimes growing up in a small rural community, and that would be replicated everywhere in Tasmania,
yes.
Knowing everybody, sometimes growing up you feel a bit judged, but then as you get older and mature, you realise what a strength that is.
Yeah.
And the warmth that embraces you as you grow up in a rural community as well.
Definitely. It's really tough when you're younger because if you make a mistake, everyone knows about it. And I grew up in a time when we didn't have social media, but everyone still knew when you did something silly. And as a kid, you don't like that. That's not a great feeling. But as an adult, and even when you have kids, you kind of know that they'll be looked after, that there's people out there looking out. And when anything goes wrong in a small community, like it's just amazing how much people will band together and help and that kind of thing. I can't imagine not living in a small community now. I'm sure there was a time when I was younger when I thought I'd like to do something different and live in a bigger place. But being able to walk down the street, say hello to everyone, if something's gone wrong, the people that'll throw their arms around you and take care of you and that kind of thing, it's just a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah, true. And like you, I grew up before social media. And sometimes the first time it happened, I was shocked. But sometimes if you did do something wrong, your parents usually knew about it before you got home.
Oh, yes. And you, like we say, you didn't even need social media for that to happen. They would still know. You would be in trouble, and there was no, at least there wasn't a record on video, I guess.
True.
That's probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, Jodie, you participated in the Emerging Community Leaders program. Now, that's funded by the Tasmanian Community Fund. What sort of things did you get out of that program?
Definitely rewarding. And I would go as far to say it probably changed my life a little bit. I know that probably sounds dramatic, but it kind of did, because when I saw that the program was offered, I sort of dismissed it and thought, well, I'm not emerging because I'm old and, and I'm not a leader. So I didn't think that was something I could do. But I'm really fortunate at council. I've had some great role models and mentors around me. And my managers at the time, Deb Mainwaring and Tracy Bradley, suggested that I go for it. And I sort of said, are you sure are you sure I can do this? But I did, and I just found immediately I thought it would be full of young professionals probably in their 20s, which it wasn't. It was other people from rural communities and all around Tasmania. And I just learnt so much and really grew in confidence to know that I could have a go at some of these things, and probably grew in confidence knowing that even if I'm doing something in my small little corner of the world, that actually makes a difference and it matters, and you can help people around you, and that's enough. That's good enough. That can have ripple effects. Yeah. So I think, I'm sad to hear that program doesn't run anymore, because I recommend it to everyone. I did for years after I did it. And I know other people have done it and have loved it as well. I just think it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. And you just mentioned then too about in a rural area as well, you think, oh, what can I do? What difference will I make?
Yeah.
And I guess it's a very old adage I heard years ago, that's how things have always changed in the world. It's a small group of people or one person making that first step.
Yep.
And that's how things happen.
That's right. But I think sometimes growing up in a rural community, in a small community, you're not as exposed to opportunities quite as much, although I think they are there. We just don't always see them. And you kind of feel a little bit like maybe you're not as smart, or you feel a little dismissed by people, particularly if you've lived in the same small community all your life, because some people judge that as, not wanting to further yourself or that kind of thing. So I think sometimes you feel a bit judged and like you can't go and do those things, like you're not capable. So it's really important to have good mentors around you and people supporting you and lifting you up and encouraging you to have a go at those things.
Yeah. Because
if you don't believe in yourself, sometimes if someone else believes in you and gives you a gentle nudge, that can make all the difference.
Exactly. That's true. Yeah. What a great thing.
Yeah.
Now, moving on, some of the other roles. Now, you're heavily involved in this community, like every rural community has got their champions.
Yeah.
One of those is an organisation called Stitch. Now, could you just a brief overview of what Stitch is, what's it's an acronym for?
Yep.
And what's been happening in that space?
So Stitch is something, it's Stronger Together in Circular Head, which we eventually thought, oh, we could have an acronym for this, Stitch will work. And it's kind of something that I created. I guess I'm probably the organiser of. I could see that there was a gap locally for people who are struggling with poor mental health or anything like that. There's not services around all the time that you can get into. And I just saw it as an opportunity for us for community to help community, for us to help each other. So almost a bit of a buddy system in a way, where there's a bunch of us that put our hands up. We've done some training to we're not qualified professionals, but we've done enough training that we could support someone short term and help them get to professional services if they need it. So it's sort of grown. It started around 2019. I just put a call out actually on Facebook to say, is anyone interested? And there was a few people that got together, and then since then it's just really grown to now we have about 18 members. We had to cap it at that because we had other people who wanted to join, and it can get a bit messy. So anyone can volunteer, but right now we're capped at that. We try and get guest speakers in a couple of times a year, so they might have a powerful message about resilience or hope or any of those kinds of things, but also it's just an opportunity for people to come together because connection is so, so important. So we do stuff like that. We host regular training. We try and raise money so that we can bring training to our community, and people can do that quite cheaply. So at the end of the day, it's about suicide prevention, but it's about that early grassroots stuff, trying to help people stay mentally healthy, have someone to talk to, connect with others. That's what it's all about. And it's just something I'm very passionate about because
wonderful.
I lost my cousin to suicide, and nearly everyone in that group has had some lived experience in one way or another. So we're all passionate about helping people through dark times.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Jodie. Now, the other thing as well, and you just teeing slightly off that, is lack of services. Do you find is that something that's increasing for rural areas, especially for like Circular Head? Is there a reduction in professional services that you're seeing, or are we serviced okay at the moment?
I don't think we'll ever be serviced okay, and I think that there's probably not enough services anywhere, and I don't know if the services have dropped or if the demand has just increased. Perhaps just the stress of life these days means it's increased. We have quite a number of services that are available, but often those services are 1 day a week, and it might be the person travels into our community to provide that service, which is great, but it also means that by the time they travel in and travel out, they might have only done 4 appointments for that day. So on paper, it can look like we've got more services than we actually have. So we know that there are gaps there. There's a lot of online things, chat, apps, all of those kinds of things, but often people want a face-to-face service.
Yeah, that's true.
And we don't have enough of that, which is one of the things Stitch was thinking, maybe we can just go have a coffee with someone, because sometimes that's all the person needs. They just need to have a chat.
Just have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not always that simple, but it can be sometimes.
It's a start, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that human contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. The other thing you're involved with is the basketball club. Now, sport is huge in Circular Head, like most rural communities, especially here.
Yep.
Now, we've got multitude of sport. We've got excellent facilities. But you've been involved with basketball for a little while now. How did that evolve? Was that something as you were growing up as well, or did you move into that in an adult life?
I was around basketball as a kid because I had family members that played. But then I was also involved in football through Saints football, and I was secretary there for a number of years. And when I had my son, Daniel, I told him he needed to choose a team sport to play, I was thinking it would probably be football at the time. But he went towards basketball. So I ended up getting a lot more involved in basketball because that was something he loved. And I'd been on the committee on and off in different roles. But after doing Emerging Community Leaders, I think it gave me the confidence and the knowledge to think I could step up to a different role if I wanted to. And it just so happened that the basketball club needed a president and they were running without one. And someone talked to me, and where years ago I would have gone, I can't do that. I think from doing Emerging Community Leaders and learning some stuff, I felt like I now have more knowledge that I could do that, more confidence, and also a bigger network, because that's something that grew out of Emerging Community Leaders. I had a network of people I could go to and ask questions and advice. So I think that was something else that came out of it that was amazing. Yeah,
that's wonderful. And you're still involved?
I stopped being president, but I was president through COVID, and it was a pretty difficult time. And I probably moved away from that because I started Stitch, and that became where I wanted to focus my time. But I have recently gone back on the committee at the moment. So yeah, I'm back there again. Just wanting to help out where I can, really.
Yep.
And,
good on you.
And passionate about sport. I know not that I play any sport, but but I know how good it can be for rural communities. It's community within community. So I think it's really important for a whole number of reasons: the connection, the physical activity, learning how to be part of a team, so many good things that can come out of sport.
So barriers in a rural community, but with your work with council, have you seen similarities with your networks that you think we could do better? Or do you think it depends on the individual? And if they really want to learn, the system's there for them to access?
I think it depends on the person. Going back to something I said earlier, I think it's a confidence thing often for rural people as well, to believe in themselves to go after those opportunities that are there, to think, yeah, I can have a go at this, I can try.
Yeah.
And not being afraid of failure, because, you know, we all worry about what people will think or what we think of ourselves if we can't do it. So believing in ourselves enough to go after those things when they're there, but also finding the opportunities, because how does everyone find out about that stuff? Like, we have social media, but we don't have a newspaper anymore. So that communication of finding out what's available and how to get to it. But then you've also got a lot of things are not provided in small communities. And then we have the issue of transport. So even if you live a little bit further out of the community, how do you get to somewhere to do training? So probably using all the online services and things a lot more to our advantage. But I think there are quite a few things in the community where people can do training if they want to. But yeah, it's also believing in yourself and thinking, I can do this, and you know, not worrying about what everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think people are concerned that people might think that they're arrogant or up themselves if, you know, if they're trying to go on to further education. It depends who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
To an extent.
It's a common theme we're hearing in the Tas Community Fund throughout Tassie. It's transport.
Yep.
Access to reliable transport, whether it's training, education, employment.
Yes.
It's something that
and even sport
hearing.
That we mentioned before,
Yeah,
to get to training, to get to sport.
Yeah, that's certainly an issue. But looking at all those problems though, have you seen areas where when communities do work together, usually in times of crisis, but then when things work together and people come together, what positive things have you seen that really drive that system to change? It might be in a crisis, whether it's a bushfire or a flood or a storm or something like that, or hopefully it never happens, but, you know, it's like suicide or family bereavement. The warmth of the community comes together.
Yeah.
And that positivity then can drive some systems change.
Yeah.
And that's always a great thing. And usually the question or the statement says, oh, why didn't that happen before? But it's happened.
Yeah.
So have you seen some of those sorts of things happen where you think, gee, that's a really positive change now, and that didn't happen before?
I'm not sure, but I think probably Stitch is a really good example. Toot my own horn here, it's the group that I'm part of, but I think it's a really good example of, we saw a need and we came together, just people in the community, not you know, no one that was a politician or worked in the industry kind of thing. It was just people coming together, and also everyone wanting to do that extra training. So if there is a suicide, and we certainly hope there aren't any, but we've done enough training that we can support somebody who is struggling, who's left behind. So not only are we trying to sort of promote good mental health and things that you can do to take care of yourself, we've also sort of gone, all right, what happens to someone after they lose somebody? What can we do? So we've actually done training with organisations so we're prepared, so we're ready to help people if that happens. And I think that's a good example of an organisation that has seen there's a need, and let's hope we never have to use it, but we're ready if we do.
Yeah.
So I think they are a really good example of that. But if you look in any of the local service clubs, Sir Optimists, Lions, Rotary, they're all doing things like that. They're seeing where there's a need and looking at how they can, you know, plug that hole or help in that space. So I think they're all doing a lot of stuff like that.
It's grassroots change and grassroots support.
Yep.
In every community is the same. And that's one of the things that I guess we'll call them unsung heroes.
Yeah.
And things will happen, but it's a wonderful, wonderful support that we all have. So Jodie, you've, as you said, lived, worked and grown up in a rural area, and there's challenges, there's opportunities. Overall, though, it's an extremely positive experience. Is there a message that you'd like to pass on to your contemporaries or anyone else that's listening or watching in a rural area in Tassie about trusting yourself, believing in yourself?
And being proud of where you come from and grateful for that. I think as a younger person, when I used to go anywhere outside of Smithton, you would basically be made fun of because you're from Smithton. And then if you went to Melbourne or anywhere, you'd be made fun of because you're from Tasmania. But now I can see how that's changed. People love Tasmania and they see the beauty in it and probably the relaxed lifestyle and that kind of thing. And growing up in a small community and living here all your life, sometimes that's seen as a bit strange because why would you do that? Everyone moves and lives everywhere. But I just think it's okay to be proud of that. Showing people around the Northwest Coast and Circular Head in particular where I live, they think it's beautiful. They love it. And it also made me start to think, why am I so, why aren't I proud of where I'm from, what I've done here, the community that I live in, all the great things about this community. So I would encourage people to be proud of where you're from, to make your little bit of difference in that little place that you're from and be grateful for where you live because we're so, so lucky. And I think sometimes we forget that while we're trying to look for something better or whatever. So, yeah, have some gratitude and pride. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Now, Jodie, there's one question that I would like to ask you. If you had $10 million that was dropped into your bank account that was going to benefit Circular Head, what would you like to see? What would you do with that money?
Well, if I'm getting 10 million, I'm definitely doing something about transport. So some kind of locally run transport that can get people where they need to go. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like yet, but definitely to get people from outlying areas, your Morebanners or Marrawar to be able to get into town to do things and to come to events because isolation is a massive problem for people. But I'd also like to see, I know council's looking at redeveloping the centre of Smithton. And I would love to see that redeveloped into, I've always wanted some kind of community hub where everyone's welcome, that different clubs and organisations can use. In my big dream, probably have the library in there as well, a space where people can stop and linger and kind of meet. So, of course, you're going to have some undercover because, it rains a lot.
Sometimes.
And it rains sideways a fair bit of the time because it's also windy. So, you're going to have some cover. But I just think a space where people feel welcome and feel like that. We don't have that at the moment. We do have lots of little halls and different things, but we don't have a space in the centre of town. And I envision you could have the men's shed, the community garden, all of those things sort of in one space where people could come and go freely and feel like they could hang out there, but also maybe have some kind of access to services to get more information. Something like that is what my big dream would be, I think, but obviously transport as well.
Transport, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great dream, and I look forward to the day then that's going to happen as well. So you just never know.
It's on my dream big list.
Yeah.
I have a list.
Yeah. Wonderful. Jodie, thank you so much for your time talking about your experience growing up in Circular Head, and it's replicated in so many rural communities when we have terrific leaders like yourself. Thank you again, and we'll look forward to chatting again in the near future.
Thank you.
No
Good to
worries.
chat to you, Mike.
Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Breaking Barriers Building Futures podcast, presented by the Tasmanian Community Fund. The fund seeks to increase community wellbeing by removing barriers to learning and to help Tasmanians to develop, deliver and lead responses to their needs. For more information, go to tascomfund.org.